What is up, guys? Biggie49 here. We are back on the Desolation map. And yes, we are not in Chinatown anymore, my friends, finally. I've been working on a lot of different projects, but one thing that's been neglected recently is the downtown area, and I don't want to forget about it. I'm going to be returning here much more frequently as we move forward in this building of this huge map. As downtown's turn next, basically. Once Chinatown's done, I'm going to be moving this way, so might as well, get started here and there. I've been working on this building that you see here for quite some time now, and I've been filling the interiors little bit by wee bit. Okay, it's taken a long time, and man, what a process this has been, but when it's all said and done, I'll have something that's, I've never really seen on any other Minecraft map. And that's just skyscraper after skyscraper of fully furnished interiors that you can loot and scavenge. Oh my god, who can say that? Who can say that besides me? I don't know. Well, I can't say it yet. Okay, I've got a few skyscrapers finished, but I got to work on this one. So what I'm going to be doing today is interior work. You know how I roll. I got to find out where I left off, though. That's the hard part. This place is confusing. I don't envy the people who get lost in here looting and scavenging while the monsters are chasing them down and trying to eat their brains. Halloween coming soon, so we're going to get spooky. Anyway, so today is Monday. And as I do each and every Monday, once I figure out where I want to start building, is I build in fast forward motion, and I talk about a question provided by you, the community. It's called Creative Question of the Week, and it's just, I don't know, it's a jewel in the rough, okay? So what I need you guys to do is put a question in the comment section of this video so that we have plenty to discuss in the next week. And I really appreciate everyone who left comments in last week's video, and you guys are the real MVPs here, right? Yes, you is. So yeah, put a question in the comment section. So yes, I already said that. All right. This week's comment of the week, or no, excuse me, creative question of the week comes from God's Right Hand, and he asks, Bean, what is your opinion on gun control? I ask this because there are many people, including myself, who use guns for simple and fun target shooting, and not for defense of hunting. Right, and not for defense or hunting. I gotcha. All right, thank you, God's Right Hand, for participating. I really appreciate your question, and it is a good one. It's one that I haven't really touched on yet, I don't believe. So let's get into it. Now, before I go any further, I want to say this, and I want you guys to hear me clearly, that this is just my opinions, okay? These are my thoughts, my ideas, my opinions. You are completely free to disagree. In fact, if you do disagree, I encourage you guys to maybe start a discussion in the comment section. I love to hear different viewpoints. I know that this is a very sensitive topic where there's a lot of emotion involved, and I just want to say right now, I don't think my perspective is the only perspective. I don't think that what I say goes. It's just my perspective from where I sit, and you can take that as you will. I just hope that you'll listen to my perspective as I will listen to yours. If you have a different perspective and you want to talk about it in the comment section, we can start a friendly discussion, okay? It's hard to say what's the right or wrong side of this issue because it's so divisive and it's so, it sparks a lot of emotion and controversy, okay? So let me express my opinion on gun control. First of all, I have never fired a gun. I've never even touched a gun. Okay? Never, not once. I never had a need, right? But I wholeheartedly believe that it is the right of every citizen to own a gun if they would like to. I wholeheartedly believe that. And, say what you will. If we were living in a world without guns, if we were living in a world where guns never existed, or let's say guns, there's only like a handful of guns, whatever, I would say, yeah, no one needs a gun. There's no need for guns. Really. We're living, you know me, guys. I preach peace, love, and happiness. There's no need for guns. But we're not living in that world, are we? We're living in a world where there's a lot of guns. And it's for that reason why I believe that it's very important. The Second Amendment was one of the most... Our founding fathers had such foresight to put that into the Constitution. And it's one of the most, I think, intelligent and when you think of checks and balances, that's the number one checks and balances. For those of you who don't know, it's the right to bear arms, and our forefathers put that in the Constitution, where it's the freedom of every individual to decide whether or not they want to own a gun. And I wholeheartedly stand by that. It's freedom. I don't believe that the government should say who has the guns and who doesn't. In a way, they kind of do already. It's kind of, the media portrays America as like, oh, you go to the corner drugstore and buy a gun. That's not how it works. You have to go through the government, and there's a long process, and it's expensive, and it takes a lot of time. So it's not as easy to get a gun as one might think. Yes, you can buy illegal guns, but that's a whole different story. Okay, that's a whole different story. So God's right hand, I absolutely believe you should have the right to own a gun. And for one reason, and one reason only, it is because of the Second Amendment, in my opinion. And the reason why I say that is because we need to have some deterrent from a tyrannical government. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but our government has been very, very slowly trying to gain more and more power. It goes as far back as, say, like the Civil War. Yeah, we're taught in school that, we fought the Civil War to free the slaves. No. The reason the Civil War was fought was because the federal government wanted power over the southern states. And the southern states wanted a little bit more freedom. And so, as a result, we had the bloodiest conflict in American history, basically. And, brother fought brother and died. And for what reason? So the federal government could have more power. So that they could say what the states should have to do. And that wasn't even the start, but that's like one thing you can point to early in our history. And from then it's been just attempt after attempt to strip away your freedoms. You look at what happened after 9/11, you look at the Patriot Act and all the communication freedom that we just lost, that the government just took. They decided to take it. Like, no more, we're going to wiretap anyone we want to. And we don't even need a reason. And so slowly but surely they're taking away freedoms from people. Because what the goal of the government is to have as much power as it possibly can. And it can't just one day say, okay, citizens, you have no more rights. We're taking over control. They can't do that. Because then we'll revolt. So they have to do it slowly, they have to do it imperceptibly, and they have to do it very cautiously. But it's a little bit over time, a little bit here, a little bit there, till you get to the point where you really have no freedom and the government's running things. Go read 1984. Go read it. If you've never read that book, go read 1984. It's all happening right now. You're living in it. It's happening in your lives, and you have to be aware. So now the government, or at least even people who are not in government, they like to use these mass shootings. There's been a lot of mass shootings recently. They like to use them as reasons to strip away more freedoms, to take away the rights of the people. And the reason why I say we need guns is because we need to have some defense against a tyrannical government. And when I say that to people, a lot of people say, hey, Bean, but you know what? The government is so powerful. They have tanks and they have nukes and they have, an army. Like, how could the people with their guns ever overthrow the government? And that is one of the weakest arguments that I've ever heard. Let me tell you guys something here. Listen to me carefully. The government is run by about 1,000 people. I would say about 1,000 people are the policymakers. And what these policymakers do is they kind of manipulate, they kind of brainwash the regular citizens of the world, or of the country, to police the rest of the citizens. So whether this is through army, or any military branch, but especially through the police force, through the National Guard. Basically, the government hires and pays regular citizens to police over regular citizens. And that's how we kind of stay in check. But if for some reason the government just stepped over its boundaries, who's going to enforce their policies? It's going to be the regular people. It's going to be the police. It's going to be the National Guard. They're going to be the ones who are going to try to uphold the government's control. So basically, they're going to use us to try to control us. Now, imagine 350 million people, each of them with guns. How are those 1,000 people who run government going to stop that overthrow? Just because they got the control of tanks or nukes or whatever. Maybe they could even bring the army. But let's say they bring in the army. They got 50,000 army troops set to defend the government. How are 50,000 army troops going to stop 350 million people? The only way they could is if those 350 million people had no access to guns. It's pure and simple. So let's say you're in government and you have control, you want to maintain control, and your control is hanging by a thread, right? You got your 0.0000001% of the population, and your control over the people is based on the people, policing themselves. So, yes, of course, they can't do big sweeping movements. That's why they have to do things like 9/11 to enact the Patriot Act. That's why they have to do things like mass shootings. I'm not saying that Sandy Hook was staged, but I'm saying that Sandy Hook there's something wrong with it, right? I'm not saying the Vegas shooting was staged, but there's something wrong with it. And it doesn't take a genius to, if you follow the money, you follow the control, and you follow the power, it all leads to one place. So that's why I think every citizen, if they want one, should be able to have a gun. Again, if we were living in a gun-free world, then of course not. But we're not. So I don't think it's right that only those in control, only those in power have access to guns. I think that's very, very dangerous, extremely dangerous. That leads us to 1984, when the people all of a sudden have absolutely no say in government. They have no power or control over the government. They've got nothing, and the government just can say whatever they want to say. And if you don't, we'll sick our dogs on you. You'll get sent to prison, or we'll murder you. Whatever if they have absolute control, they can just murder people. So guns, it's a small thing, right? But people have to realize that, we're not small if we're united together. We're 350 million people. We're strong. And government, if we say government is wrong, then we should have the power to bring in a new government. And, who knows if that could ever happen, but it's good to have that choice. If we have no guns, we have no choice. And one thing the government likes to do, in conjunction with the media, is make it seem like gun violence is out of control. Like if you're in Britain or in Australia or some other country and you're watching the news or reading the news about America, you would think that we're like the wild, wild west. Guns are everywhere. People are dying in the streets. That's what the media portrays. Do you know why? Because they want you to consent to giving up your guns. They want you to look at the news and say, oh my God, if we don't give up guns, people are going to continue to die. I'm going to put up a graph right now. And this graph it only goes up to 2010. But look at the downward decline in the rate of firearm homicide deaths. It's on the decline. And, look at the spike in 1993. That's when we had an assault weapons ban. So during the ban on guns, we saw a huge spike in gun violence. Interesting. So the reality is that gun homicides, gun deaths, gun violence in the United States is on a rapid decline at the moment. Rapid decline. But that's not true if you listen to the media. The media would have you believe that you cannot step foot in a public place without the threat of a mass shooting, right? Without the threat of being murdered. And it's just instilling fear so that they can get you to consent to give up your rights, to give up your freedom, so that they have more power and more control, so that they can, make more money, so that they, people, who knows, really? The people who have power, they just want more, and no one really knows why. How much power does a person need? But it corrupts, and it's because of the ego mind. If you don't have the ego in check, if you're not working towards the highest good, then your ego is going to get out of control. And that's what, people in power, that's what happens to them. Their ego just goes out of control, and they need more power because they get addicted to it. It's like a drug. And so that's where we're sitting at with, it's not just the United States, it's all governments. It's all people in power. They want more, and they want more control. Because if you're in power, what do you want more than anything else? Is to make sure that you secure that power so that you always have it. And so the best way for the government to do that is to strip away freedom by freedom, slowly but surely. Little here, little there, so that they don't really notice, and then one day they wake up and they have no say in anything. And the government has all the control, and they have no threat of being overthrown because the guns are out of the hands of the citizens, and they can use their small army of brainwashed dogs to control 350 million people. The army of 50,000 with a few tanks can suddenly control 350 million people. You bring all of the military's resources into this country, they could not maintain control against 350 million people with guns. They just couldn't. So it's checks and balances. And, hopefully we don't get to the point where it's necessary to overthrow our government. Hopefully there's enough intelligent individuals who can see this coming and refuse to give up their rights, whether it's guns or communication. It doesn't matter. You're a free sovereign being. You were born into this world with unalienable rights that cannot be taken away from you. So it takes a smart populace, an intelligent person, an intelligent group of people to maintain those rights. And that's where you come in. That's what you have to do. You have to be smart. So yes, maybe you don't think people should have guns. That's your opinion. That's fine. I respect that. But what I don't respect is people giving up their rights for no reason. That I do not respect. So maintain your rights, friends, because they're being taken from you little by little, one by one. And, maybe it might not even be in your lifetime, but one day your kids might wake up and they're living in 1984, George Orwell's 1984. So think about that as you move forward in life and as you watch the media and realize how they're trying to manipulate and control you to give up your own rights. They've already manipulated and controlled people to police themselves. Now they're trying to get everyone to give up more and more rights without questioning it. So that is today's creative question of the week. I enjoyed that little conversation. Remember, if you want to discuss this, put that in the comment section below. We'll have a discussion about this. And again, I respect everyone's opinion and you're free to voice it here. This is a community where we discuss things rationally. And so feel free to speak out. All right. That is the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already. Happy Minecrafting. Peace.